Well, welcome back, you guys. We're still working on this golf hole project. So you can see just through the variables we have grass, we got a hole, and we got 4 walls going for us. So that's looking pretty good. And of course down here we got the 3 functions, one for the grass, one for the hole, and one for the walls. And down here you can see in the draw function we're clearing every frame. We've given the background a nice blue color there, which is looking pretty good. And then down here you can actually see the definition of the 3 functions that we have. Now, like you've seen me do, today we're going to be making more custom functions, and the newer it is, the more high up in the functions list it goes. But when we run them, it goes downwards in order. Okay, so the oldest one that we have is setup grass function, and then the second oldest one is hole setup, and then the newest one as of now is the walls function. So we need to start creating some more stuff. And again, you're starting to see this game come together. You started with the background, you had the grass, you put the hole on, and then you put in the 4 walls. Now think about what we need. Well, we definitely need a ball to hit into the hole, and then we need a putter to hit the ball with, right? So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to make the putter and ball. And we'll go with lead, of course. And we're just going to call the putter, and the ball we're going to call, well, we'll call this one a little different, golf ball, like this. So we have the variables defined, which allows us to then use them whenever we need to, and yes, we're going to need them very soon. And then we're going to be making a function. Okay, so I'm going to need 2 functions, one for each of the 2 objects, although you don't necessarily need to do that. I'm going to do it. And the first one that we're going to be making is the ball. We'll make a function for the ball. And then the second one we're going to be making for the putter. Okay, so as usual, we've put these 2 lines of code. You wouldn't run it yet because you haven't actually made the function. If you were to use these 2, you would expect there to be an error because we have not actually created those 2. I'm going to create them, but I'm going to do them one at a time. So actually right now I don't want to work on the putter. So I'm going to get rid of that one so that I don't have to worry about there being errors as I run the code. And you have to keep in mind not to move forward with any more code if by chance you have errors. So if you go to the last assignment and it's like, Mr. Sal, I don't have everything working. Okay, don't come to this assignment. Go back to the last assignment. You may have to watch that video and get down what you need. So you need to fix anything before you move on. And I can't say this enough. Put in 1 line of code, run the program, make sure it works, and if it does work, you can do the next line of code. If it doesn't work, you need to stay where you are on the line you are on and figure out where the error is, because it's going to isolate where your errors are. You'll be able to find them a lot quicker, and it's a good skill to have, being able to find your own errors. So I'm going to keep this the way it is. And again, the putter function, it's coming, but I'm not going to be using it yet, so I don't actually have to erase it. I can make it a note by putting 2 slashes in front of it, which now make it a note. When I'm ready to make it, I'm going to come back here, and on line 29, I'm going to get rid of those 2 slashes, which you will see. But we're going to start with the ball function. So again, it is a customized function. So we're going to show a note making the ball. And what are we going to call it? Well, we already know we're going to call it the ball. And yeah, your uppercase, lowercase stuff does have to match. If they don't, then you're going to end up with problems. Okay, so it was called the ball, right? Yep, that looks good. We got the 2 parentheses, down here 2 parentheses, and the closing fancy bracket. Now you should be able to run it and there's no errors. If there are errors, you need to stay where you are, go back, and fix any errors that you may have. But for me, this is working pretty good, so I can start making the ball. Let's see, what did we call it? We called it golf ball, didn't we? Yeah, golf ball. So I'm going to make golf ball equals to a new capital S-P-R-I-T-E. You guys should be getting used to this by now, right? We made 4 walls, we made the grass and the hole. That's 6 different items right now. That's plenty of experience, but again, if you don't, there you are. Run that code, make sure it works. If it does work, we can move on. And the next thing I'm going to do is give the ball a shape. So if you ran that, you noticed that it made the ball a square right in the middle of the screen. That's just the default shape. I'm going to force the shape now to be a ball looking shape, which is of course a circle. So it's dot, I'm going to use radius, but you can use diameter if you want. And the radius that I chose was 8.5. Now, do you have to choose 8.5? No, you don't, but you may want to consider this radius is 8.5. That's a diameter of 17. That's a fairly large ball, and you may want to compare that to the hole, which has a diameter of 25. So think about this relationship between the hole and the ball. We talked about this before. Are there reasons why you would want a bigger hole? Would a diameter of 10 work for the game? And again, you have to think about those types of questions when you're developing, so that if people play your game, it's not an impossible game. People don't like impossible games for the most part. So we're going to come back here to the golf ball function, and now that I got that radius in there, run it, make sure it looks good. If it looks good, we can go to the next line of code, which I'm going to do. Golf ball, capital B, and we're going to locate the ball. So that's golf ball.y, space equals space. And I put it at 440. You don't have to put it there. You can put it pretty much wherever you want. And you notice that I skipped the X. I didn't do golf ball.x. I want this ball to be centered right on the grass. If for some reason you didn't, you could put it maybe towards the left corner, right corner. I'm thinking maybe you'd look at the random values we used for the hole, right? Like maybe you'd put it as far to the left as 120 or as far to the right as 350. I don't know. You have to decide that though. I'm just going to go with 440 on that. I'm sorry, I'm not using an X, but my Y is 440. Okay. So with my golf ball.y being 440, now we can go to the color of this. So we have a shape, we have a location, golf ball.color space equals space, and this one I just made it white. Again, you can choose a color from the color picker like this. It's completely up to you. You can be creative if you want. You can use the names if you like. I don't really care. That's completely up to you guys. Now, the next thing, and this is probably something that we haven't thought about, but it is fairly new, although we've seen the code before. But I'm going to give the golf ball some bounciness. Bounciness. There we go. Space equals space. And let's see. We did the bounciness with that, I think with the gravity assignment. I think that was a little while ago, though. So I have a bounciness, and the bounciness that I'm going to give it is like an 80% bounce. Okay. You can decide if that's good for you. You may want to mess around with this number. Make it 10, make it 100, make it 0.01, and then go with the value that you like. Of course, the really high number is going to make it super bouncy. I don't know if that's what you want. But that's the bounciness that I'm going with, and that's all we really need for the golf ball. We have a color, we have a shape, we have a location, we've made it an object, and we've given it some bounciness. That's all we need. So run that program, make sure it works. If it works, you should now have a white dot towards the bottom of the grass right in the middle. And that's what we do want. So now that I've made the ball, now I can come up here and say, you know what, I'm going to make my putter function so I can get rid of the 2 slashes for me on line 29. And I can come down here to my custom functions and show I'm now going to make the putter. And my function, we know, up there is called putter, P-U-T-T-E-R. Of course, you don't have to name it the same name that I'm using, but that's completely up to you guys. Now, you should be able to run it at this point. Now that I've actually made a putter function, even though nothing's happening in it, you shouldn't have any errors. And since I don't have any errors, I shouldn't have any errors, I'm going to now make the putter. The putter, space equals space, is going to be a new space, capital S, P-R-I-T-E, open parentheses, close parentheses, semicolon. And just to make sure I didn't name that incorrect, that's the putter, that's the putter, boom. So I got my 2 variables, and I'm using the same variable name, so now I know I can use the same variable name as I further create this putter inside the putter function. So we're going to make the putter, and again, I want to work on its shape, so I'm going to give it a width, and the width that I gave my putter was 50 pixels. Again, there's your code, run it, make sure it works, and all that should happen now is the square in the middle of the screen should now shrink down to a height of 50, and then we're going to give the putter.height I said it should shrink. I don't know if that, I think the default width is 50, but that was width, so it should have been, should have shrunk sideways. The height now is going to shrink up and down. I'm going to make it a height of 20. Now, if you don't like those numbers, use whatever values you want. Some students like to make these really big. Some like to make them extraordinarily small and thin, and that's up to you guys, okay? But I'm going to make it this height. Go ahead and run it. Make sure it works. If it doesn't work, fix it. If it works, let's go to the next line of code, which is placing the putter, right? So I don't need an X on this because I just want it to be centered, and pretty much I want it to be centered with the ball. So I suppose technically I could have made it like the golf ball dot X. If I wanted to kind of follow around, but I do want it to be below the ball. So the putter dot Y, again, I want it to be below the ball, but really I'm going to make it related to the height of the canvas. So I'm going to use the variable height, and then to make it go up, I'm going to subtract. For me, I just subtracted 30. I know the height of my putter is 20, so 30 should be plenty enough to show the entire putter. So run that line of code, make sure it works. If it doesn't work, you need to fix it. If it does work, we can go to the next line of code, the putter, and I'm going to give it color again. And the color that I chose, pound A330B8, which was kind of a purplish color. So I've got blue, I've got green, and yellow. Purple seemed appropriate. Red, sure, whatever you guys want, okay? You get to choose the color. But run that code to make sure it works. If it doesn't work, fix it. Now that I have a color, I'm going to make the putter dot collider code. So this may come as a surprise, but again, it may be surprising because we're not used to it. Now you may think, well, yeah, but we want to move it, so we don't want it to be static, right? That's correct. We don't want it to be static. This is the first time I think we've used it, but it's kinematic. K-I-N-E-M-A-T-I-C, close quotations, semicolon. What does kinematic do? Well, kinematic means it's not affected by collisions or gravity, but it allows us to move it. Whereas static means even if we put in the code to move it, it shouldn't move. And that right there should be enough to create the putter. And what do you see on your screen now? Again, you see a video game coming together. With the background, you have grass. Of course, it's not grass, it's just a green rectangle. You have walls, and of course they're not walls, they're just yellow or orange rectangles. You have a hole, which is just a black circle. You have a ball, which is a white circle for me. And then you have a putter, which is just a purple rectangle. And that's kind of the beauty of video games. Well, I guess it's not necessarily beautiful sometimes, but it's deceptive, okay? In the mind, we think, oh, I am looking at an actual golf ball and a golf hole. You're not. You're looking at a circle that's black and a circle that's white in the case of my video game. And that's all video games are. No matter what kind of video games, they can be 3D, they can be extraordinarily realistic. But in fact, behind that realism, even if it is super realistic, there's just code like this that's going on that's essentially meant to make the mind and trick the mind into thinking that it's real life, which means almost all games are kind of their own form of simulation. So you'll want to keep that in mind, because if we can keep that in mind, then we won't be deceived. So that's the code that we have. Let's see if we can show more of it. Okay, so we already saw the wall code. There's the two functions. And then up here we called the functions, or we ran the functions inside the setup function, and then on line 10 we actually made those variables. So that's all we got for this video. I really hope it helps. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later.